The engine coughed. The wheels rolled through puddles of oil and rain, and in the eyes of a distant Russian commander, it was nothing more than another nuisance. Yet beneath its cargo of rotting fish, wires hummed softly, carrying a pulse that could unmake an empire. Somewhere in the shadows, 3 men waited, not soldiers by choice, but guardians of a fading line. No medals, no glory, only silence and precision. When the world believes you have nothing left, even a lie can become a blade. This is not a tale of might, but of wit, of how courage and intelligence can twist the course of modern war. Tonight, we step into the quiet theater of deception, where every heartbeat could ignite the dawn. The plan began not with fire, but with silence. In an alleyway behind a ruined factory, 3 figures moved like specters beneath the shroud of dawn. Their breath turned to mist, their footsteps disappeared into the mud. The oldest, a man with sharp eyes and a calm voice, checked his watch once, hour 5:26. In exactly 4 minutes, the decoy would roll into view. The truck was nothing more than a patched-up UAZ from another century. Its frame creaked with rust, its cabin stank of fish and diesel. Yet within that smell of decay hid the heart of the operation, a transmitter no larger than a pack of cigarettes, disguised among coils of fishing line and moldy crates. To the untrained eye, it was just filth and rubbish. To them, it was a signal waiting to awaken a ghost. "Frequency ready," whispered the youngest operator, fingers trembling slightly over the handheld pad. A faint green light blinked once as their false beacon had entered the Russian system. From now on, every sound, every movement, every flicker of interference could betray them. Outside, the first Russian patrol shifted positions. Flashlights swept across the wet road, catching the glimmer of glass and puddles. One soldier muttered a curse about the smell, then waved the truck through. The commander in the bunker nodded, bored. "Nothing dangerous," he said. The team watched through a narrow slit in the wall, hearts pounding, knowing that in boredom lay their greatest ally. The bait had been swallowed, but the moment of relief was fleeting. A sharp electronic pulse hissed through their comms, static, faint, but real. One of the Russian sensors had caught a whisper of their signal. It was not enough to expose them, but enough to stir suspicion. The commander's voice returned over the intercepted frequency. "Send a patrol. Check the area." The leader exhaled slowly. "No turning back now," he murmured. "We let them come." In the distance, headlights flared, cutting through the fog. The operatives melted into the shadows of an abandoned warehouse, leaving behind only the truck, its doors open, sacks of fish spilling onto the road like a fisherman's mistake. The story was set, the stage prepared. For the Russians, it was just another morning patrol. For the 3 silent men of HUR, it was the beginning of a storm disguised as calm. The silence did not last. In the Russian command post, deep inside a fortified warehouse, a faint blip pulsed across a dark screen. It lasted less than a second, a fragment of static, a ghost in the spectrum backwards, but it was enough to rouse suspicion. The officer in charge, Colonel Voronov, frowned. "That is not background noise," he muttered, leaning closer to the monitor. Pride and paranoia were twin flames in his chest, both burning equally bright. "Send a patrol to confirm." Outside, engines coughed to life. Headlights pierced through the pale fog, cutting across the cold asphalt. 3 armored vehicles rolled forward, their wheels crushing puddles left by the night rain. The soldiers inside were weary but alert, veterans of too many ambushes, yet convinced of their own invulnerability. After all, they had the jammers, the drones, the steel. What could an old truck possibly do? Across the street, in the shell of an abandoned building, the Ukrainian team listened. Through their low-gain receiver, they could hear the Russian voices closing in. Each syllable sounded like a hammer against glass. The youngest operative swallowed hard, trying to steady his breathing. The leader raised a hand. Silence. Only the drip of water from a broken pipe filled the air. The patrol reached the truck. One soldier climbed onto the bumper, sweeping his flashlight through the open cargo bay. The smell hit him first, our fish oil and rotting waste. "Nothing," he said, waving to his commander. "Just garbage." "Copy that," came the reply. "Return to position." For a moment, the three in hiding believed they had passed the edge of death. But inside the Russian bunker, Voronov's instinct screamed louder than logic. "Wait," he said. "If it is nothing, why did the signal appear?" He tapped his headset. "Prepare to relocate the drone convoy. Now." The order rippled outward like a silent explosion. Mechanics rushed to start the engines of the cargo trucks inside the complex. Dozens of metal crates, each marked with coded tags, were loaded in haste. From their vantage point, the Hare team watched the convoy move, a column of steel, glimmering faintly beneath the streetlights. It was the very heartbeat of the enemy's power. The leader whispered into his encrypted mic. "The bear has awakened. Phase 2. Far above, in the ghostly sky, the first Ukrainian drone stirred to life, white, its small red eye blinking once before vanishing into the mist. The hunt had begun. Above the ruins of Melatop, invisible lines of energy began to weave a deadly net. The Russian jamming system flared to life, flooding the air with a metallic hiss that drowned out every civilian frequency. The command screens glowed crimson walls of static and data spikes. Inside that bubble, nothing should have survived. But hidden within an abandoned factory, the operatives of HUR had already anticipated this. Their tablets flickered once, then stabilized, connecting to a micro-link coded beneath a false signal pattern, a digital ghost riding the storm. "Decoy drones launched," whispered the technician. Two small FPV units, barely larger than birds, rose into the gray sky. They carried no explosives, only a mission to scream. As they darted forward, their transmitters spat out distorted signatures identical to Russian Lancets. On the enemy's radar, the ghosts appeared as friendly units in distress, flaring up and vanishing amid the chaos. The Russian operators cheered. They believed the system had neutralized two intruding drones. "Target neutralized," reported a voice over Voronov's radio. "Victory confirmed." Voronov smiled, leaning back in his chair. "Excellent." Another attempt crushed. But outside, the storm was only beginning. From their vantage point, the HUR leader watched the Russian response unfold exactly as planned. Apple, the arrogance of success, breeding blindness. The convoy slowed near the junction, engines idling, waiting for new instructions. The Ukrainian drone, Baba Yaga, remained silent in its hiding place, its dark frame blending with the roof beams of the warehouse. Inside the bunker, the illusion deepened. One of the decoy drones had been programmed to transmit a final, desperate signal, a cry for rescue. The system interpreted it as a Lancet requesting diagnostic reboot. Automated protocols responded instantly, diverting bandwidth to stabilize the phantom drone. For 20 seconds, the Russian network opened a narrow gap in its armor. "Now," the leader breathed. Through that digital wound, a faint command slipped to say, a whisper masked beneath layers of static. Baba Yaga received it. Its rotors stirred, releasing a low hum that resonated through the rafters. Power cells aligned. Target locked. The technician checked his pad. Link established. "She's alive." A ripple of relief swept through the team, immediately replaced by renewed tension. They were playing chess on a knife's edge, using deception as their only weapon. "Begin Phase 3, came the quiet order. "Prepare the flash strike." Outside, unaware that the trap had already closed, the Russian trucks shifted into position, their lead vehicle halting exactly where the pressure plate slept beneath the mud. The duel of signals had ended. The war of detonations was about to begin. The command came in a whisper. "Trigger Baba Yaga." Inside the dark warehouse, the heavy drone lifted its head like a beast awakened from slumber. Dust fell from the ceiling as its rotors began to spin, slow at first, then faster, slicing the mist into spirals of light. Its sensors blinked in shades of amber and green. On the operator's screen, a pulse began to rise. Heartbeat, lock, align. Outside, the Russian convoy idled, waiting for orders that would never come. The lead truck, the one carrying the crates of lancets, SNS, rolled forward another meter, its front wheel pressing gently on the pressure plate buried beneath the mud. "Wait," murmured the UR leader. His eyes stayed fixed on the display where lines of data flickered like lightning. "Not yet. Hold." The young technician's hand hovered over the command key. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than the hum of the drone. Now, the signal was sent a silent, coded pulse that traveled through the narrow gap in the jamming field. Baba Yaga obeyed. It did not fire missiles. It released a flash. A single electromagnetic surge exploded outward, igniting the TM-62 mine buried beneath the road. The explosion tore through the stillness. White light first, then sound, then heat. The shockwave rolled through the industrial zone like a living thing. The front axle of the Russian truck snapped, sending sparks into the fog. The cabin twisted, half crushed, its electronics burning out instantly. For a heartbeat, everything froze, headlights flickering, soldiers shouting, radios screaming with static. Then, chaos. Machine gun fire erupted as panic seized the patrol. Tracer rounds streaked through the smoke, carving orange lines in the air. The Russians believed they were under attack from multiple directions. In truth, there was only one enemy: silence itself. From the warehouse, the HUR leader watched the inferno with no triumph in his eyes. "Confirm secondary," he ordered. The second phase began. One of the decoy drones, already damaged, shot upward into a web of high-voltage cables. The impact created an electrical bloom, a thunderous burst of light that blinded every optical lens in the area, including the Russian Orlan drone circling overhead. For 2 priceless seconds, the world went white. Baba Yaga surged forward, a phantom framed in the blaze. Its engine screamed, drawing every watt of its remaining power. It cut through smoke and fire, locking onto the immobilized truck. "Impact in 5, whispered the technician. 4, play. The leader closed his eyes. "Let her fly." Baba Yaga dove, a streak of light and defiance, and vanished into the heart of the storm. The blast devoured the dawn. A column of black smoke spiraled upward, carrying with it the shattered remains of the Russian convoy. Fire rolled through the warehouse district, painting the morning sky in shades of orange and grey. Within seconds, the echo of explosions faded, replaced by the hollow thud of collapsing metal. Inside the tunnel entrance, the OR team crouched low, waiting for the shockwave to pass. Dust rained from the ceiling. The youngest operator, trembling, whispered, "Is it done?" The leader checked his display. A signer, the signal feed from Baba Yaga flickered, blurred, then went dark. A final frame remained, a burning truck, fractured silhouettes, the horizon splitting under pressure. "It's done," he said softly. Above them, chaos reigned. The Russian response came swift and furious. Mi-8 helicopters thundered overhead, slicing through smoke clouds with their blades. Infantry units poured into the industrial maze, their searchlights stabbing the haze. Radio chatter filled the airwaves. "Enemy drone attack. Glacier, find them. They can't be far." But the hunters were chasing ghosts. Through the narrow corridor, the operatives moved, dragging their equipment and crushing every compromised transmitter as they went. The air was thick with dust and the bitter tang of burned circuitry. Their boots splashed through shallow water, echoing against the concrete walls. "Battery status?" the leader asked quietly. 5%, the technician replied. "Then we have minutes, not hours." He placed a hand on the cold tunnel wall. Somewhere above, engines roared and bullets cracked. Down here, only the heartbeat of survival. A faint rumble signaled the collapse of a building nearby. Loose bricks trembled. The youngest operative stopped, turning back once toward the exit. For a brief second, he imagined Baba Yaga, the drone that had become more than a machine, rising once more from the ashes. But the skies were empty now. Only the fading echo of its final flight remained, drifting like the aftertaste of thunder. When they reached a junction, the leader pointed to a rusted manhole cover. "This is our exit." Together, they lifted it and climbed into the half-light of dawn. The world above was transformed, smoke towers rising like dark monuments, debris scattered across the street, the smell of burnt metal and fish mingling in the air. No cheers, no applause. Only silence, the kind that belongs to those who fight unseen. As they disappeared into the ruins, the city swallowed them whole. Behind them, the Mi-8 hovered helplessly over a burning crater, searching for enemies who no longer existed. The vanishing point had been reached. Only the smoke remained. By the time the sun lifted above Melatop, the battlefield had turned into a museum of ruin. Charred trucks smoldered beside the cracked asphalt. Fragments of metal still hissed in the morning wind. A single column of smoke climbed into the sky, black at the base, silver at the edges, a monument born not of victory, but of wit. From the safety of a distant hideout, the HUR operatives watched through a small periscope. They spoke little. What was there to say? Their mission had succeeded beyond calculation. One warehouse destroyed, more than 20 Lancet drones annihilated, an entire jamming network silenced. The equation was merciless, a few $100 in bait and signal work against losses worth millions. But none of them smiled. The leader simply noted the final time, 0640. "Record complete," he said, shutting down the last device. Around him, the others began to pack up the remnants of their operation. Fragments of cables, scorched transmitters, empty batteries. The smell of ozone still clung to their hands. "Do you think they'll ever know it was us?" asked the youngest, half whisper, half prayer. The leader looked through the cracked window at the rising smoke. "They don't need to. The message will speak for itself." And it did. Across the front lines, the footage spread within hours. A black tower of smoke twisting above the ruins, the proof of a reversal few had believed possible. On the radio waves, soldiers whispered the name Baba Yaga with a mix of fear and admiration. Even those who had not seen it swore they had felt its shadow. In military briefings, analysts struggled to explain how a single low-cost strike could dismantle such an advanced fortress. They called it asymmetric ingenuity. The men who made it happen called it survival. To the Ukrainian units stationed miles away, that dark plume in the sky was more than debris. It was a signal, a promise that steel and arrogance could still be broken by courage and thought. War, they realized, was no longer just about the size of armies or the number of machines. It was about who could think faster, deceive deeper, and believe longer. As the day faded, the smoke began to thin, merging with the clouds. The operatives walked away, disappearing once more into anonymity, their names unrecorded, their voices swallowed by the hum of the city. Yet the lesson lingered, idem board drifting across airwaves, etched into reports whispered by soldiers at dusk. In these modern military equipment, the mind remains the most dangerous weapon. When the wind finally cleared the sky above Melatop, nothing remained but silence and smoke. The fire had long died, yet its echo lingered, a quiet proof that courage could still rewrite the mathematics of war. Jambast. The world would soon count the numbers, losses, costs, tactical gains. But for those who stood beneath that pale morning light, the only thing that mattered was the lesson left behind. Military equipment can be powerful, forged in factories, wired with precision, gilded by wealth and science. But machines do not dream. They do not hope. They do not choose between fear and faith. It is the human hand that guides them, the human mind that gives them purpose, and the human heart that bears the price. For every drone that falls, there is a story unseen. A breath held, a decision made in seconds, a whisper between comrades. The heroes of Melatop will never be named in parades, yet their courage will move quietly through history like smoke through dawn. From the charred streets to the ruined towers, one truth resounds. Military equipment may change with every generation, but the spirit behind it does not. Intelligence, sacrifice, and love for homeland. These are the unseen engines of every victory. And perhaps that is the real secret of war. That even in an age of artificial minds and electronic warfare, it is still humanity that defines the outcome. No algorithm can replace the will to protect or the quiet decision to stand firm when all logic says to flee. So, when the next column of smoke rises on the horizon, remember the nameless ones who made it possible, those who turned a rusted truck into a weapon of genius, those who proved that the mind is the sharpest blade. In the end, military equipment is nothing without the soul that commands it. Peace. Freedom. Subscriber, not just for a story, but for the spirit that endures beyond steel. Before dawn, when the mist still clung to the broken roads of Melatop, a rusted truck crept through the fog like a ghost that had forgotten its purpose. What if, on this silent morning, the deadliest weapon was not made of steel, but of deceit?